you can be your own bank, right? That's a famous phrase of Bitcoin. And that means basically you can store billions, trillions of dollars of Bitcoin in a little USB stick and hide it somewhere, whatever, and like no one can get that.
Hi, I'm Evelyn Ray. Welcome to the Caldron Pool Show. Really excited about my guest. Probably for selfish reasons, because I've been following her for a really long time. I'm super interested in everything she does and what she shares, and I actually just really wanted to pick her brain about a subject that I get asked often about and something that I'm interested in but know absolutely nothing about, and that is cryptocurrency. And so today I have with me Heidi, and she's from CryptoTips. She has a YouTube channel, super informative, and yeah, I'm so glad to have you here. So thank you for joining me, Heidi.
Yeah, thanks, Evelyn. Excited to be here. Let's learn something.
Yes, I'm not sure if you have these books in America, but in Australia, it's like scuba diving for dummies and reading
definitely
for dummies. Okay, so this is going to be cryptocurrency for dummies, AKA for me, because I'm sort of in that space online with like the political commentary about big government, big corp, the bureaucrats, all these things. And every single time I speak about government overreach or tyranny or the globalist agenda, one of the first things people mention to me is Bitcoin or cryptocurrency, and that being a solution. But for me, I'm pretty simple. I'm an Aussie chick. We're pretty simple folk down under. And so it's a little bit over my head. So I guess I want to start off with the basic question of what is cryptocurrency?
So you have, I am so into like the history of how this was created. But first, at the very basic level, what is a cryptocurrency? Basically, it's a way to transfer value without a centralized third party that controls the creation of it, or like the emission of it, approving who and what can send money where and when. It's currency that isn't created by any government. It's a sovereign currency. And basically it's run by a decentralized network of computers that are basically checking. It's a public ledger. So it's a public history of these transactions, and it's run again by a decentralized network. And it was first created by a person whose pseudonym is Satoshi Nakamoto in 2009. And that's like the first successful implementation of cryptocurrencies. People have been trying to create cryptocurrencies since the 80s, like the early 80s. And even before that, there's the cypherpunk movement and encryption, and really a lot of volunteer renegades who were able to understand the importance of the internet, and more importantly, how to protect your privacy on the internet and through encryption. And so with that naturally came, okay, how can we also add monetary value to that? How can we add a transactional layer to that? So people have been trying a lot for cryptocurrencies, and finally in 2009, they figured it out. And the issue that that Satoshi had figured out is, it's like basically, how can you trust that the information will stay honest as it's moving along the system? Anyway, so yeah, and also Bitcoin was released open source. So that means all of the code that makes up the Bitcoin network, the software that it runs, is open source, totally public. You and I can go on and see it. And because it was released to be open source, there's now like several thousand different cryptocurrencies that have taken that idea and have built on it, have tweaked it, there's always trade-offs, right? For if you want something to be one way, you might have to sacrifice something else. So there's a huge difference in these different cryptocurrencies. And as you advance in your, journey in crypto, you'll start to learn those. But yeah, basically it's a way to transact value without having to deal with governments that are printing your currency, central banks that are not voted in, central bankers that are controlling the monetary policy. And, furthermore, just censorship and like what we were saying with Russia and sanctions, what we're seeing with Canada. These are all use cases for Bitcoin that have always existed, but people are just now really realizing the importance of how freeing this kind of disruptive technology can be. So yeah.
So back in 2000, yeah, that is a lot actually. Like, I'm going to be honest, I took little bits, Heidi, but there are still some bits I might need clarification as we go.
Sure,
but
please.
Back to 2009, you said like, they've been trying to do crypto since the 80s, but 2009 is kind of when it became a tangible, actual sort of thing. Was that Bitcoin itself, or was that a different type of cryptocurrency to Bitcoin?
No, it was Bitcoin. The
Right.
Bitcoin white paper, was in 2008. And then I believe the first transaction happened in January 2009. So
Okay.
basically Satoshi, what he did, the white paper is basically like a general overview of how the network can work. And he released that into this chat group and people were tearing it apart, but he really believed in what he was doing. And then he launched the network and it was successful and it's just been growing ever since.
So what made it unsuccessful prior to that? Like as in, you said it's been going on since the 80s. What was that pivotal moment in 2009 that made it happen?
Yeah, so David Chaum and his DigiCash and Nick Szabo and his eGold, or BitGold, I'm sorry. There's like they had this idea, but they always required a centralized entity to control everything. And that essentially they weren't building anything really new other than, like more of the same, right? Of a central bank type situation. So what Satoshi created was the blockchain and the decentralized network and how those computers work together and how it's really interesting. He used like a game theory to incentivize honest behavior. So basically, he found a way to incentivize people to behave honestly on the blockchain rather than if they wanted to game the system and like cheat or whatever, you'd actually, it would be very short lived and you would be much more successful if you played by the rules. Yeah. So basically how a blockchain works is, again, it's a public ledger of transactions that are being locked into this public ledger. And if someone were to somehow obtain 51% control over that blockchain, they could double spend coins, they could print a bunch of Bitcoin and do crazy things. But now, like maybe in 2009, 2010, that was possible. But today, that costs like hundreds of billions of dollars to do that for like maybe 10 minutes. So wow. It's just not feasible, even for a huge government, because once they ran out of money, basically to do that attack, the rest of the nodes on the network can undo those transactions. They can come together, make a consensus that was nefarious, and everything that they did would be reversed. So they wouldn't actually come away with anything. So yeah, it's really interesting how using game theory again to incentivize honest behavior, I think is really good. Rather than relying on centralized control to, dictate how things happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And something I sort of wanted to ask you about is the value of Bitcoin and cryptocurrency and how that works. Because there's a really interesting, not rumor, I think it's probably a known thing, but of Alex Jones was given a USB with some form of cryptocurrency like way back, like probably towards like 2009, 10, like that sort of era. And I'm not sure at that particular moment in time it was as valuable as it is today. And I think he's misplaced it. And I think they gave an estimate that it's probably worth millions of dollars now on this missing USB. And what is even more interesting, I found out through looking into that sort of theory, rumor, whatever it is that, Bitcoin has a limit and there's like a cap off. So if you lose that money, it's like it's lost. You can't then replace it like our big federal banks do as per governments and things. They can just print more money. They can just, do that. You can't do that with sort of Bitcoin. So my first question is, I'm sorry, I went all over the place there, but my first question to you would be, how do you determine the value of Bitcoin? And then after that, I might get you to sort of explain how there's a cap off on how much money can be, I guess, distributed.
Yeah. So, it's debatable if there's intrinsic value to anything other than food, right? Because you need that seriously to survive, food and shelter. But for Bitcoin, it has certain capabilities that make it very valuable for people. The fact that it's borderless, you can transact in it regardless, again, whatever country you're in, whatever time of day it is, wherever you're located, whatever reason you're sending it, no one cares. No one's asking you your reasons for sending Bitcoin if you're doing it in a peer-to-peer fashion. Also, Bitcoin is immutable. Like I said, with the blockchain, the transactions are locked in. Once you have a certain amount of basically blocks locked in after your transaction, it is locked forever. It can't be undone. No one can take your money back. It is yours permanently. It is peer-to-peer. Again, anyone, anywhere can create a Bitcoin wallet. And if you have a Bitcoin wallet, you can receive Bitcoin. If you know someone else who has a Bitcoin wallet, you can send it to their address. No permission needed, no KYC needed. It is decentralized. Like I said, the network that functions is decentralized. All of this government talk of regulating or trying to ban Bitcoin, they cannot. I don't care who you are, what government you are, however much money you think you have, you cannot shut down the network of Bitcoin, because nothing is stopping anyone from running a node from basically, again, I said it's open source software. Everyone can start running that software on a computer to help maintain the network. And so what they are regulating are these centralized exchanges, these kind of bottlenecks of how people are entering and exiting the network. That's a whole other story, but the value of Bitcoin also, like you said, with the supply, a hedge against inflation. It is hard coded how much Bitcoin will ever be created. It is a known emission rate of Bitcoin. We will know exactly when and how much Bitcoin will exist at any point of time that have ever been created. There's a limit of 21 million that will ever be created. But like Alex and like many other people, especially if you're new to cryptocurrencies, most people make mistakes. They lose their seed phrase, they lose their USB code card. And so that's kind of contributing also to the scarcity of Bitcoin too. Like in all reality, the amount of Bitcoin that probably could ever be accessed is more in like the $16 million range, because so many people mined it. They mined, hundreds of thousands of Bitcoin, and then they threw away their computer, or they didn't value it or whatever, and they just forgot about it, and then it's gone. And because Bitcoin is immutable, once those coins are gone, if you don't have access to your seed phrase, no one can ever break it unless they can break the encryption of Bitcoin, and then it's all over. But that's not going to happen anytime soon. So
we hope not. So what determines the value of Bitcoin? Because I'm not sure if you know off the top of your head, but like what would one Bitcoin be worth in like dollar sort of categories?
Let me check, right, so I can give you an accurate number, what the price of Bitcoin is. It's been kind of stagnant actually for the past couple weeks, but right now one Bitcoin is trading for $38,589 for one Bitcoin. You don't have to buy a whole Bitcoin. You can buy 0.00001 Bitcoin if you wanted. It's divisible up to 8 decimals. So in that way, it's also feasible for small transactions as well.
For peasants like myself who do not have a $38,000 laying around for one Bitcoin. So that I like that you could get little portions of it. Yeah. So does it fluctuate often in terms of, like, just then you sort of looked and it was 37 and then it went up to 38. You said it's changed. Does it change often, like the value of it?
Oh, definitely. Bitcoin's known for being volatile. That's due to it, number one, being a really new market, a really brand new asset class compared to, property or the stock
Mm,
market, it's very new and small. And so what that means is if someone comes around with a big chunk of money and they buy Bitcoin, it's going to make it skyrocket, because
mm,
you can think of it as, like, right now, it's like a smaller boat. As that market grows, that boat gets bigger. It takes bigger waves for it to really change or to affect the price pretty significantly. So
mm.
yeah, it's a growing market. And so as that comes with volatility, some people take advantage of that volatility. They swing trade, they buy low, they sell high, and then they buy back again when it dips, and they can start accumulating that way. But it's definitely volatile. And that's something that I'm always saying is put a little bit of money in if you're interested. Because especially if you're new to crypto, you don't really know the core intrinsic value
Mm.
of what this technology represents. For me, it's easy. I am pretty much all in crypto,
Yeah.
because I have so much faith in where this technology is going, and it's not going anywhere. But if you're not, if you don't have that kind of steadfast belief in this, then yeah, you're going to get scared with the volatility. You see it crash, and then you sell it at a loss, and then you have a bad experience. A lot of people, that happened in 2017 when Bitcoin basically went from, like, what was it, $1,000 to $20,000.
Mm.
That bull market was definitely fueled by what we call retail investors. Some people call it dumb money as well. Basically,
Mm.
it's people who are getting their investment advice from their mainstream media news. All of a sudden, they're talking about Bitcoin. Oh, it's going crazy. They don't know anything about it, but these people hear it on the news. They buy it. They're buying at the top, and then it crashes because they run out of new people to purchase.
Yeah, right.
Where the people who bought lower see that price going up, and then they start selling it because they're taking a profit. Like, who wouldn't want to take a profit?
Mm.
And so when that kind of equilibrium shifts and there's more people who want to sell than buy, then the market starts correcting. So again,
Mm.
because it was in 2017, Bitcoin was a baby. That was like the first time the general public, were really being introduced to it. And now this time around, in the past, again, 2 years, the narrative for Bitcoin being a hedge against inflation,
Mm.
of being an immutable way to store and secure your wealth, and to transact in it, that's bringing in a new type of investor. All of a sudden, also there's more regulations coming in here, so it's opening the door for more institutional investors to get exposure to Bitcoin. So it's kind of, I think it's less volatile now than it has been in the past. I think it's going to
Mm.
continue to be less volatile. But
Yeah.
still, if you're comparing it to something like the stock market or property prices, it's definitely, yeah, more volatile. And I mean, like properties, they have usually like a 15-year cycle. Bitcoin is said to have what was it, a 5-year cycle, so, or three, much shorter time
Mm.
span from, again, the lows to the highs of the market, from a bear
Yeah.
market to a bull market. So
I actually remember, maybe it was last year sometime. I think it was Elon Musk commented something about Bitcoin or cryptocurrency, and that, like, did something to the market. I'm not sure if I'm remembering that correctly,
that's
but
definitely right. He does it. He actually
yeah.
just did that the other day as well.
Did he? Is,
Yeah.
like, does he I'm not sure if you know, but does he actually invest in that, or is he just kind of,
Yeah. No,
okay,
his company is, was it SpaceX or Tesla, is invested in Bitcoin.
right.
So he has Bitcoin on his books for his company, and I think he's also personally invested in it. He's also always talking about another cryptocurrency called Dogecoin, which actually, funnily enough, that one was created as like a meme coin, like kind of just as a joke. And now it's funny. People are like really taking it seriously. But
Oh, wow.
it's like a symptom of what this whole space is incredibly talented, creative people who are testing how money can work in different ways. And that for
Yeah.
me is like really cool to learn about and see how you can, change people's lives and have so many different forms of income now, passive income that was not usually, attainable by most people unless you already had significant capital at your hands, So
That's true.
I think crypto definitely has the ability to shift how people work 9 to 5 jobs. Like, for example, I don't. I run a
Yeah.
YouTube channel. I have a paid membership group, but yeah, I definitely, because of my investments in crypto and my activity here, I've been able to travel the world and work online and have passive income coming in that makes me feel very comfortable. So yeah.
I'm sold. Where do I start? I was going to ask you actually about, I guess, income and things, because there's actually somebody that I know here in Australia who has pretty much not had to work since they have invested in Bitcoin and cryptocurrency as well. I guess it's sort of an income. What I'm confused about, and I guess what probably other people who are in the same position as me who know nothing about cryptocurrency are probably thinking, is how do you make an income? So if you're investing money into Bitcoin or cryptocurrency, is it similar to the stock market where you've got to buy and sell and trade and do all that to make money, or does it grow on trees in the backyard? Like how does it sort of work?
Yeah. So now, okay. So yeah, of course you can day trade Bitcoin. You can swing trade cryptocurrencies. Day trading is basically you're making multiple trades a day, tiny little trades that accumulate over time. Or you can again buy low when the market is generally lower, and then sell when you see that it's swinging towards the top. That's like swing trading. Maybe you might do trades like every couple of weeks or every month or so, depending on your time frames. But that's like probably how if your friend started many years ago, that's probably what he was doing, because there wasn't much option other than having to sell your Bitcoin to take profit into fiat. But now there's the Ethereum was launched in, what was it, 2014? And I think it was 2014, 2015, Ethereum launched. And what they did was brought to us the, smart contracts. And what that is basically, it allows you to put money kind of in an escrow account, and you can determine, okay, if I'm sorry if this is getting a little technical, but it's basically if you can determine if this condition is met, then my money will do this, or will go here, or this much money will go to you. So it brings much more utility to money, rather than just holding it or being able to transact with it. You can make it do a lot of it. What do they call it? Is programmable money. So that's what smart contracts do. And what that has led to is DeFi. In 2019, 2020, that really got a lot of more attention. And so what you can do, DeFi is decentralized finance. Basically, you're lending your crypto and you can get paid in interest. And similarly, you can borrow crypto. And if, let's say you wanted to make a bigger trade, you can borrow crypto, make that trade, make more profit, more profit than you would have before, paid back your trade. And then that way you've also earned profit. There's also it's really exploded, especially over the past year, with decentralized exchanges. You can basically contribute your coins to be traded against, and you're rewarded by being a liquidity provider. Basically, there's so many ways to earn passive income with cryptocurrencies. Another good one, in my opinion, if you're interested in making this ecosystem more robust, and you actually want to contribute to the security of the coin that you are such a fan of. And it's a proof of stake coin. Like, for example, Cardano is a famous one, Polkadot, Luna, Cosmos, there's a lot now. And basically what you can do is you can help secure the network by locking up some of your coins, and the value of your coins are what essentially, if a hacker, or if like the scenario that I explained before with the 51% attack on Bitcoin, if someone wanted to control Bitcoin, they would need computing power. With proof of stake, they would need a lot of money, a lot of stake, a lot of those coins to overrun the network. And so by you kind of contributing your coins to that type of network, you're helping to secure it, and you're rewarded by getting paid in those coins. So yeah, it's really interesting. And there's basically pick a rabbit hole.
This is fascinating. It's amazing all the different things that you were sort of talking about. I'm like, oh, wow, I need to wrap my head around that particular thing. And then I'm like, oh, wow, this as well. But I'm guessing, based on everything you've said, the more you involve yourself with it, the more familiar you become with it. And it's like learning a skill or a trade, and it's something that develops over time. But I sort of wanted to circle back to what you can use Bitcoin for, because a lot of people are, apart from an income, a monetary type income, and being able to sort of sustain yourself without a 9-to-5 job, apart from that particular point of Bitcoin, what else can Bitcoin be used for? What can you purchase with it? I know, for example, Gab, the alternative social media platform, there's an option there that you can pay for your pro account with Bitcoin. And I know there are some really good places that you can use Bitcoin. But for those of us who also kind of want to know, like, this probably sounds so stupid, but hey, I'm here admitting that I have no idea. Can you buy groceries with Bitcoin? Can you buy clothes with Bitcoin? Can you buy like jewelry? Like what are other sort of tangible things can you use it for?
Yeah, sure. So there's over 10,000 merchants that accept Bitcoin directly. I'm sure there's many more now too as well. So basically, again, like you said with Gab, you can use it directly to purchase it. You can also use what are called crypto debit cards, where you're basically loading it with your crypto. And it's like a Visa card or MasterCard. So the merchant, for all they know, they're getting whatever local currency that they accept, because at the time of your purchase, the trade is basically being made from your crypto to fiat. And then it's just a card. So there's definitely, crypto debit cards, they also require KYC. Of course, you're working with these, again, Visa or MasterCard, so they're going to need to know what's happening with their network. So it's not exactly the most private way. But again, if you go to a merchant that directly accepts crypto, you just scan a QR code with your phone and you can make the payment that way. I also love to be a little crypto evangelist wherever I go. Recently, my husband and I, we went to Indonesia, and we basically we talked them into accepting Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies, because my bank required an SMS text every time I wanted to do an international transfer from my bank to theirs. And basically, because they didn't, we were like in this crazy little tiny island, and basically I couldn't receive SMS text. So I was like, listen, if you just let me do this, I can pay it like so much better. Yeah. So I made her a little tutorial video, how to get her account set up, how to set it up and all that stuff. And they loved it. And now they definitely accept crypto. So it's really interesting. Like, and also now that all these other companies and institutional investors and banks are kind of, being approved or giving their approval for Bitcoin, JP Morgan, Fidelity is like, I think Fidelity actually recently admitted that they bought Bitcoin in 2014, and they're saying basically there's no risk to it anymore. Like, just buy some Bitcoin. Yeah. So it's interesting how the tides are turning, because for so long, it was only for criminals, and
you look now, like a criminal, Heidi. Yes,
I know.
Yeah, it's crazy. It is something that I guess you could say was in that conspiracy tinfoil hat spectrum for a while. I proudly and happily wear a tinfoil hat, Heidi. I have no shame in my foil hat. That's, you know, and
Is it
I think
a conspiracy theorist, or are we just critical thinkers? I don't know. Is there a difference?
That's right. We have more than a tin can and a marble for a brain. I think that's what it is. But it's interesting, the last sort of 2 years, it's like, I told you so. Like, you know, there's been so many moments like that. And it's always like, you know, oh, the government wouldn't do that. The government wouldn't do this. And it's like, well, here it is. It's slapping you in the face now. And yes, they are doing it. So I feel like cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, things like that was in that spectrum. But as time goes on and seeing the success of it, you know, that's another coin in the Alex Jones was right tip jar, which is overflowing at the moment. So yeah, it's fascinating seeing it progress and seeing so many people sort of want to get involved in it. One of the big questions that so many people ask me, and I've spoken to some people who are into cryptocurrency, is the different cryptocurrencies. Now, you mentioned Bitcoin was like the first one that sort of came out in 2008. I think you said white something. See, I'm not even remembering. I'm doing my best.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yep, that one in 2008, and then 2009 it kind of happened. And then I guess from there, other cryptocurrencies have come forward. But so many people have said to me, only do Bitcoin. The other ones are rubbish. But then, you said Elon Musk has got that Dodge. I don't even know. Yeah, that one. So can you kind of explain the difference between Bitcoin and them, and whether there's one that you should invest in more than the other?
Yeah, that's a great question. And again, there's like, I think at least like 10,000 other cryptocurrencies that exist.
Oh, wow. Really?
Yeah.
That's a lot. Yeah.
So what Bitcoin had going for it and still has going for it is the grassroots way that it spread. And so it had like a really decentralized way to grow. And now how most cryptocurrencies are launched is basically they hold a funding round and you can invest in it early and you get some coins. And then, so Bitcoin again is proof of work. And so that means that as these miners are helping to secure the network, they're being rewarded in the transaction fees that people pay to use the network. They're also rewarded in what are called block rewards. And that's the emission of Bitcoin. And every 4 years, those block rewards are cut in half. So like I was saying before, at any one point in time, we will know exactly how many Bitcoin have ever existed. Whether they're accessed or not, because people have lost it, is a different story, but that's how many have been produced and will ever be produced. There's other cryptocurrencies that are much more loose with their emission of coins, with who can control and actually change the emission of coins. Some cryptocurrencies have very centralized control over the supply, which is actually very similar to centralized banks again. And so that's something I pay attention to is number one, like what is the supply that the coin has? Is it in like the hundreds of billions or even trillions? And what's the point of that? You know, like it's people look for cheap coins and they think it's going to go as high as Bitcoin. But if you don't balance it out between, you know, how watered down is that coin in the whole, you know, existence of the other ones that are like it. Other things I look for are, again, the development team. If something does go wrong with the project, can they remedy it? Are they just around are they just popping up again because it's a bull market and that's when more people are pouring in? You'll find a lot of projects pop up then, and then they go silent when the money is not there, you know, not pouring in anymore. Bear markets are actually really good for weeding out the crap projects, the ones that don't have, again, a skilled development team, that are only there just for the money. They're not going to be continuing to code unless they're, you know, they get like $1 billion or something. So you don't really want that, you know, you don't want a fair weathered cryptocurrency project. Ethereum, for me, Bitcoin and Ethereum are pretty solid investments. Ethereum is without a doubt the biggest platform for smart contracts. My husband, Toby, he actually has a really good analogy that I like. You know, there's always that analogy with Bitcoin and gold kind of being similar in that it's, again, a hedge against inflation. It's the hardest asset that has ever existed, because it is hard coded of how much will ever exist. And then Ethereum can kind of be seen as like the oil that runs the machine. And Ethereum is kind of hosting similar to like an app store where you can do all these things. You can play games, you can do NFTs, you can do DeFi, all these different ways that you can interact with your cryptocurrencies rather than just buying it, storing it, or sending it to someone else. You can do a lot of other stuff with it. Okay. There's also a really good use case for privacy coins. Bitcoin is, I think that's another thing that people misunderstand about Bitcoin. They think it's like a privacy coin. It's pseudo private, kind of pseudo anonymous, in that it is traceable. It is a public ledger. So you can trace your wallet transactions from this wallet to this wallet to this wallet to this wallet. Whether or not you can be identified as the owner of that wallet is important. Let's say you and I were both kind of public figures. And if you said, hey, donate Bitcoin to this address, you're saying that you are the owner of that Bitcoin address. And then from there, it's pretty easy to track, where you're going to send it to, especially if you do patterns of you usually send it to an exchange, then to trade it for fiat or whatever, then people know that relationship. Privacy coins, good ones are Monero. I know Pirate Chain has been a popular one the past year or so. But so there's a use case for those where basically you can't know where this coin came from, where it went to. It's a lot more like cash, where like if you have a dollar in your pocket, you can't know who exactly owned the history of that dollar. Its fungibility is also a very important thing for Bitcoin and for cryptocurrencies. If you're talking about blacklisting certain coins, that they've been involved with the hack, and then all of a sudden you find yourself in possession of that, and then all of a sudden you can't spend it because it's been flagged, and there's like a false association to you in that illegal activity. That's not exactly facilitating a good network and fungibility of those. So smart contract platforms like Ethereum, Bitcoin is solid. It's a proof of work blockchain. It's the most recognizable. It has the best network effect. Obviously, if anyone knows about cryptocurrency, at the very least, they know about Bitcoin. Again, Ethereum, privacy coins. I think those are all pretty great ideas that have been practiced here with crypto.
And you sort of said it pseudo ID and things like that. So if, for example, I wanted to, dip my toe in the water and buy some Bitcoin or some cryptocurrency, do I have to give like my full name, address, or any of those things that you'd give to a normal bank, say if you wanted to invest in something? Or can you literally just have a wallet and you have the code, the access to that wallet, and you can spend it and you don't have to give any of those private personal details out on the web?
Yeah, so definitely. What you described was, having to give up your information. That's a centralized exchange. And they require that because the government is requiring them to be reporting that information, or they expect the government to be needing that information down the road, and they're trying to avoid getting fines or getting shut down. There's actually decentralized exchanges, which are basically working in a more peer-to-peer fashion. They shouldn't be having any kind of a server that collects your data. So basically, the most common way that people buy and sell cryptocurrencies is through centralized exchanges. Coinbase is a big one. Kraken is a centralized exchange, but it's, in my opinion, a secure one. You still have to give up your information, but there's definitely ways for you to gain exposure to crypto without going through KYC. You can find someone in person and make an exchange again for cash. For crypto, there are certain centralized or decentralized exchanges that facilitate that. In my opinion, there's one decentralized exchange that is the best example of one, is called BISQ with a Q on the end, BISQ.network. And that one allows for bank transfers, peer-to-peer bank transfers, and your information of your bank and everything, it's only stored locally on your computer. They don't have a server that's storing that. They have no way of giving that information to anyone. You're only sharing that information with the other person on the other side of that transaction. The only downside to BISC, I believe, is you have to have Bitcoin already to kind of establish your reputation as like, you're not there to just take money and leave without, you kind of have to put up collateral basically. But as your account there grows and matures, then you need that less and less. But in my opinion, if you can find someone, I'm sure there's people in your group that can send you crypto and you can send it, trade it for cash. And then you can get your hands on some Bitcoin. And then from there you can transact on BISC. And then what's easy actually is if you want to be trading crypto to crypto, let's say you have Bitcoin and you want to explore these other cryptocurrencies, that is much easier to do without giving away your personal information. The big roadblock for people who want to keep their privacy as best they can is that move from their bank account to crypto. And again, it's that like bottleneck that the government can definitely easily control. And, there's ways around it, but it's not the most convenient. But it is possible. Absolutely.
So who actually like owns Bitcoin or owns the cryptocurrency? Because like that might be a silly question again, but like our banks over here are owned by people. There are people sort of at the top of that. Are the people who invented the cryptocurrency? I'm not even going to attempt to try and pronounce the name of that person that you mentioned at the beginning who created it. It sounded Japanesey, but but I'm not even going to try, Heidi. But does that particular person own Bitcoin and is kind of like the, I guess, the person who can pull the plug whenever they want, or is it? I have no idea what else it could be, but yeah.
No. So the name was Satoshi Nakamoto.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's okay. He has no rights to take down the network because again, he released it to be open source. That means anyone at any time can start running that software. He has no like kill switch for it. Because the code is open source and there's very intelligent people who can analyze that code and have analyzed that code for over 12 years now, or how long has it been? 13 years now. If that existed, it would have been brought to our attention by now, and it hasn't. And it would be a huge, again, bottleneck of weakness of the network. And again, because the network is decentralized, you can kind of think of it as like a spider's web where there's many points of support. And just because you can take one out doesn't mean the whole thing falls out. Not to mention the fact there's like a million spiders that are always creating more webs. So that's kind of like when he released it, he was like, okay. And it's just kind of like growing. But there are other cryptocurrency projects that have CEOs that have, like really centralized companies that control how the code is built and as it morphs and changes. But yeah, Bitcoin in particular, no, that can't happen. No one individual can or will ever, I believe, control Bitcoin, and much less so to even shut it down. Yeah.
That was actually my next question, because I think a lot of people are fearful that they'll invest money in cryptocurrency and then something's going to happen, like the big ogre is just going to pull the plug of the internet and everything goes crashing down, or someone's going to, some special agent spy is going to hack into the system and steal everybody's cryptocurrency. Is this even possible, like those scenarios, or like can cryptocurrency basically collapse on its head, or?
So I love the argument because I get that too a lot. What if they shut down the internet? And my number one thing is if they shut down the internet, you're going to have a lot more concerns of what's going on with Bitcoin. Do you have access to fresh water, and can you grow your own food? Because like supply lines are going to be down.
That's true. I mean, we're going to have to Bear Grylls it if we lose the internet.
Exactly. But also, this concept of hackers, or like more specifically breaking the encryption. because encryption is what secures and what makes Bitcoin like so secure. And that's another thing I forgot to say is like, try to do that with gold or cash, whatever you need, like an entire house to store that. But the way that Bitcoin works is there's a private key and a public key, basically. And that's generally how you can think of it as like a key that unlocks a house. And that encryption is very secure. It has never been hacked. It's never been hurt or whatever. Yeah, hacked. And if that were to happen, then obviously all of the developers and all these people who are running nodes on Bitcoin are very in the know of the risks, of potential risks, what could happen, what's their plan B. And all they'd have to do is just fork the code, just make a little switch and then change. And then from there, move on. Also, there's like the boogeyman of quantum computers. What about a quantum computer can break the encryption of Bitcoin? If that's true, they can break the encryption of banking systems, of governments around the world. But their governments aren't the only ones who have access to quantum computers. There's people in the crypto space who definitely have access to them as well and can use that to also bolster the security of crypto. Because you have to remember, like, and that's why I always go back to the cypherpunk movement of just the level of intelligence and foresight that these people had. Eric Hughes in 1993 wrote the Cypherpunk Manifesto. And if you're interested in like, renegades and volunteerists and stuff, the Cypherpunk movement is right up your alley. Read the manifesto. And, the internet was just starting to get mainstream. I mean, not even really, like just starting to bloom. And they had the foresight that, okay, we need to build systems of encryption that will protect privacy, your communications, and again, money transfer, and that forked off into cryptocurrencies. So those people still exist. They're located around the world, and they really believe in this technology and making sure that it exists for the betterment of humanity. Like these people are volunteered. A lot of them are anonymous. They weren't paid for what they're doing. I'm sure they benefited, in some ways of being the creators here and having that foresight, of course, but it was all really altruistic. And so for me, I take a lot of comfort in that. And I'm trusting that because if you think about governments and the red tape that they have to go through and the bureaucracy that they have to do, whatever they're doing behind closed doors is whatever, but they do not have the most intelligent people working for them. The free market, in my opinion, will always be a much better option. And that's what we're seeing with cryptocurrencies is, look what's been created in the past 13 years and how much, like I was saying with DeFi and NFTs and gaming and privacy coins. And it's like, it's so inspiring of what is able to be created if you're not held back, by regulations and you're just ready you can do whatever the heck you want. You can create a Dogecoin, you can create Shiba Inu coin or whatever these stupid coins are, but you're free to do so. So I don't know, that for me is really inspiring.
I think there's very little that, if anything, to be honest, that the government has touched that is better off for it in the end.
Yes,
so
exactly.
I think the fact that this has nothing to do with the government is very attractive, not just from I don't want the government in my business perspective, but probably because there's really smart people, probably smarter than the government, who have created it and who have maintained it and who have looked after it. I worked for the government for 12 years as a cop. I tell you what, it ain't pretty on the inside of the government. And, it's like anything that you have to do with the government. It's like, well, that's going to be a crap job. That's not going to be ideal because we're literally hopeless. But I did break away from that. That's part of my life, mind you. But yeah, no, it was rough being on the inside of the government, that's for sure. So I also take a lot of comfort with what you said. I hadn't thought of that before, that there's actually probably some of the smartest people in the whole world who are in control of it, who are creating it, maintaining it. and I guess, looking after it and participating in it. So that's the sort of people
Yeah.
I'd rather be around and being investing in for sure. So I sort of wanted to ask you as well about the opportunities that Bitcoin can give to people. And I know you mentioned before the opportunities it's given you. You travel around the world. I've actually heard stories about people that have bought dual passports with Bitcoin and things like that. And yeah, if you have any stories or examples or testimonies, I'd love to sort of hear it.
Yeah, definitely. I actually renounced my US citizenship and
Oh,
I was
did you?
able to
I
do
didn't know that
so.
was a
Yeah.
thing. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Best decision I ever made.
Just,
Just like
that's
how you
like,
broke away, I broke away too.
yeah, that's like giving the bird. That's like, there's no other way to do it. That's fantastic. Like that takes
Yeah.
guts. Well done.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was, obviously you have to have a second citizenship lined up in your possession first before you renounce. So you're not
Yeah.
stateless. And so, yeah, I was actually able to purchase that through my successful investments in Bitcoin and Ethereum. And I, not directly with Bitcoin, but it's coming. And with St. Kitts and Nevis, and they has no income tax. They're actually becoming much more crypto friendly. So anyway, I locked that one in. I said goodbye to the US, which is kind of funny. My renouncement story. When I renounced, I left because you have to renounce in a different country. So I did so in the Bahamas. And when I left the embassy, I was like so excited.
Yeah.
And the armed guard, of course they have like the semi-automatic weapon that they're guarding. And he like gave me around it. He like gave me a high five and he clapped.
Oh, really?
Like, no idea what I'm celebrating.
Yeah, that's it. If only he knew.
Yeah, there's definitely, that's my own, story of breaking free and how, having an early adopter mindset in general is really good. Try to have foresight as best you can and make strategic moves in your life and be nimble. That's been my biggest takeaway the past, 10 years. But also, there's people who I hear have retired early. That's another thing is like so many people are retiring early now and they're leaving their 9-to-5 jobs. They've, invested usually during the bear market. And then when the bull market comes, you can see, what was it, Bitcoin in the past 3 years, their year to date within that year of profit was like 300%, 60% was the lowest one, and like 200% or something. So that's just Bitcoin. And Bitcoin, a lot of people say is like the most boring one. There's definitely other cryptos that do much crazier. But anyway, people who retire early, people who can spend more time with their family, who can finally travel and live where they want to live. They're not tied down by the job that they had to have. But similarly, I've also had conversations with people who are so skeptical about finding success in cryptocurrency that you have to have insider information or you have to have gotten lucky. You're too late to even see profit in anymore. It's sad for me to see people who still have that kind of limited mindset. And for me, it's a symptom of the system that they're in, just they have to work 2 jobs, 3 jobs, and take care of their family, and their spouse has to also work multiple jobs, and it can seem really hopeless. And that's why I'm always, recommending for people to gain exposure to at least Bitcoin through the method of dollar cost averaging. Basically, just set a budget for yourself that you can easily put away. You're not stressing out about it. If you're able to forget that amount of money, whether it's like $10 a week, $50 a month, $100 a month, whatever your budget is, just consistently buy Bitcoin, like no matter what the price is, and accumulate that way. And then before you know it, you're going to have a little pile of Bitcoin. And then when a bull market hits, you're going to be like, holy crap, it worked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's certainly a moment that I would love to experience. And so it's, again, there are so many hesitations, like you mentioned. People are sort of scared. I think it's in our human nature to be scared of things that we don't know or to take risk. Sure. Like we're sort of creatures of habit and we like comfort and our short-term comforts, and sacrificing that for potential long-term gains is hard for people to do. But it's certainly something I'm really interested in, particularly with how the world's going at the moment, just being as self-sufficient as you can, just getting away from the bureaucrats and the government, and just living as freely as possible. And so I'm interested to see, like, heck, you renounce your citizenship and I don't even know what country you said you got your citizenship from, but it sounds tropical. It sounds something pretty amazing. And now you have so much more freedom at your fingertips, which is attractive. I do like it. So I'm mindful that this is a very complex thing, what I'm going to ask you next. But if I wanted to just, after this conversation with you, go, you know what? I have $100 to spare. I just want to do it. I'm just going to buy $100 worth of Bitcoin, which is 0.0000 whatever 8 decimal percent considering the value. But I want to put $100 in. How do I do that? Where do I start?
Yeah. So again, there's like 2 different ways to enter crypto. And so I'm going to do the easy way. And that's through centralized exchanges. It will be sacrificing your privacy. You'll have to give your basically, it depends what country your documents are from is going to determine your experience in cryptocurrency through that particular exchange, because again, they are dictated by your government and your government's stance on cryptocurrencies. So you're going to have to give your name, your address, your ID, and that's usually it. And then from there, you can make a bank transfer into their account or into your account on their exchange. And then usually there's like a little trade tab, and you trade USD or Aussie dollar for Bitcoin. And then from there, you have Bitcoin in your account on that centralized exchange. But what's really important to understand is that holding Bitcoin on a centralized exchange is just like holding your cash in a bank, in that your cash isn't really there. They're out doing other things with it probably. Right. So what's best is to, if you want to be storing it for long-term, withdraw that Bitcoin from the exchange into a wallet that you control. So it's like taking it from the bank and putting it in your safe in your house. Okay. Hardware wallets are really good for that. Ledger.com is an excellent one. Trezor is also an excellent option as well for hardware wallets. And that's basically it's not an advanced wallet. It's a very secure wallet. I'll just leave it at that. Yeah. Or you can do it the other way I was kind of talking about, the decentralized way, where you have $100 in cash and maybe someone in person who's involved in cryptocurrency. Just ask them, hey, can I buy some Bitcoin off of you? And then they can help you either have a hardware wallet already, or you can easily set up a wallet on your computer. Exodus wallet, Atomic wallet are good short-term wallets, in my opinion, and then eventually get a hardware wallet. But anyway, give them the cash, and then they'll ask for your address to deposit the Bitcoin, and then the Bitcoin will be in your wallet. And then from there, you're good to go. And then no KYC needed. No one knows where that Bitcoin came from. The only hiccup here is if it gets to the point where, and it kind of is, where if you want, let's say that Bitcoin grew into like millions and millions of dollars, and you want to cash that Bitcoin out into cash, and you need to put it into your bank, banks want to know where that money is coming from. And if you don't have proof of like kind of the trail of that, they might give you a really hard time. So
they might do what they do best, which is control and manipulate and be tyrannical. Yeah.
So what you could do, if you're really organized and you're really stringent on this, is just keep it separate. Keep your identified Bitcoin over here and keep your anonymous stuff over here. That could be a strategy that could be very confusing, but that's why for me, renouncing my US citizenship just gave me so much freedom in cryptocurrencies. Like, no one really cares for me.
You're the ghost,
what's happening.
The crypto ghost.
Yeah. So
It sounds great. I still feel like I would need somebody to hold my hand to get started in the process, like without doubt. But it's the things that you've sort of answered are some questions that I've had, some major questions about, I guess, security and hacking and value of Bitcoin, which is what people really want to know. But what I sort of want to finish on is where you see it going. Like, and I know like you don't have a crystal ball and no one knows exactly, but in your opinion, and I guess in your expertise, you've been doing this for such a long time. Where do you see Bitcoin and cryptocurrency going? Do you think it's only going to get better? Do you think it's only going to go up in value? Do you think that more trade is going to be opened as a result, like, and more people are going to be willing to accept it? Do you see with the way that the world's going, we're going to be Bear Grylls, and in our bunkers, in our prepping bunkers that people paid us out for all these years? Like, where do you sort of see the shift with culture and society going in crypto?
Yeah. So, there's that phrase, good times create soft men create hard times, hard times create hard men, or something like that.
Strong men. Yeah, I know
strong men. I'm sorry. Yeah, strong.
Yeah.
So I think we're kind of in that transitional period of like entering hard times that are going to be waking people up and valuing freedom and seeing governments for what they do, which is always serving their own best interest at the expense of their citizens usually. So I think that's where we're headed. And I think cryptocurrencies play perfectly into that. And yeah, so price wise, again, I think Bitcoin's going to become less volatile, but I think that still it's such a small market compared to any other asset class. And the fact that it's getting so much attention from governments is like, I think a perfectly clear example of the type of disruption that it represents to them. So for me, I think regulations are going to come in. Institutional investors are going to be pouring into Bitcoin because they're going to want to be protecting their wealth from the hyperinflation or the extreme inflation that's going to be hitting. And so I think it's good for Bitcoin long-term price-wise. I would love to see, eventually we're valuing things in terms of Bitcoin rather than its fiat value. And that would be an interesting shift. A lot of hardcore people already do that, but it's not mainstream by any means, of course. So hopefully we're not Bear Grylls for too long. But yeah, I think
we will emerge from our bunkers with our digital wallets, Heidi. We
shall be the victors.
Yep.
Yeah. So, with this age of information and the internet and how fast information can be sent, when you can wade through the BS at the mainstream media, the narratives that they're always trying to throw at you, I think people are going to be seeing things for what they really are soon enough. So I'm optimistic, but I do also want to say, I wanted to give these warnings because there's a lot of scammers with crypto as well.
Yes.
And so here's some like really easy red flags to keep you from, especially if you're new to cryptocurrency and you're eager to get profits and you feel like you're too late and you need to cut corners to get the profit back. And there's someone, let's say whatever, you liked a post on Instagram that had something to do with Bitcoin, or they can somehow tie you to an interest in cryptocurrencies. The number one flag is if someone ever contacts you directly, they make the first initial contact and they're like, hey, how's your crypto investments going? Or I have a great investment opportunity for you. It's a scam. I don't care. I have a lot of impersonators on Instagram and it's a shame. And I'm not the only YouTube crypto person has that as well. There's so many scammers that impersonate people. They try to trick them. So that's a huge red flag. Also, a common scam that can happen is, let's say you purchase a Ledger hardware wallet, or you're on an exchange or something, and for some reason your email gets leaked to the dark web. And then you get an email and it seems like it's from Ledger, and they're basically trying to scare you. They're saying, oh, there's a huge thing, like you need to log in and give us your seed phrase. Never give anybody your seed phrase, your private key. That is the key that unlocks your coins. That's basically proving ownership over the coins. Whoever has that has the authority to withdraw the coins from the wallet. So never give that away. Never fall for fear. Always check out their official, you know this, but crypto is all over Twitter. So check out their official Twitter communications and reach out to someone officially before you do something fear-based and like you give someone your coins away or you invest in something. And the impersonators are horrible because you let's say you fall for it and you send them $1,000. They're like, oh, you need to send a little bit more and then we can withdraw it. Oh, you need to send a little bit more. And then they keep asking, and it's a horrible thing. So I wanted to get that out there too, for anyone who's new to cryptocurrency, to relax and don't do anything drastic because you think you need to cut corners to make more profits. You're still early on crypto, and just try to, I know it can be overwhelming and obviously it's all brand new, but try to have some intuition on who's trying to inspire fear or greed in you, because those are really easily manipulated for newcomers. So
yeah, definitely. I remember actually reaching out to you because there was an impersonator who contacted me, same profile picture. It was under the handle blockchain 1, whereas you're just blockchain, whatever it was. There was a digit. Yeah, there was one digit that was different, and I almost fell for it. Like, thankfully they weren't asking me for money, but I nearly was chatting to you like I normally would. And then I think I messaged you, I was like, is this you? And you're like, no. And I'm like, oh, Evelyn, you should be better than that by now. So I actually followed that account. It was a very blonde moment, and I'm not proud of it.
They copy everything. Sometimes they have more followers than me. Also, what they always do is they'll block me first, so I can't even see them or report them.
Yes.
On Instagram, I only have like about 5,000 plus followers. There's people who have like 50,000 followers that are impersonating me. It's crazy.
It is crazy, but it's a testament that obviously people respect you and value you. I mean, impersonation is the highest form of flattery. So obviously you're doing something right, and they're like, oh, we can get people in with her brand, with her name and what she has to say. But I guess that'll lead me into the final thing I want to ask you. I feel like I've probably taken up too much of your time, and I've probably been very frustrating to try and explain things to.
This is great.
But where can people find you? Because I guarantee you I've missed questions. People will have questions. You have a YouTube channel yourself where you talk crypto tips, and you've mentioned social media. So please tell people where they can follow you so they can annoy you like I'm probably going to in the future now.
So the easiest way is to make sure you're not getting any scam account is on crypto space tips, 2 words, on YouTube. And in all of my videos, in the video description, I have links to all of my official social medias. There's Instagram, Twitter, of course. I also post on Library, which is a decentralized video sharing platform. But I'm horrible with branding. So on Instagram, I'm Real Crypto Tips because someone already has that name. And on Twitter, I'm Blockchain Chick. And again, like you said, be careful of the spelling. They can be very tricky with that. They're using numbers or symbols. And also, of course, Crypto Tips on YouTube. So
Yep. I'll try and include those links in the description as well. And I'll double check with you before I put the links that they are the right ones, just to make sure. But it was such a pleasure having you here. I would like to have you back again, maybe a post cryptocurrency for me, like and how I'm coping with it, and you can talk me through it next time, because it's certainly something I'm really interested in sort of investing in, even if it's just a little bit at a time until I get my feet up and running. But it's been such a pleasure. You're such a lovely person, and I really value what you do, and I hope people reach out, follow you, especially your channel, especially if they're interested in this sort of spectrum as well. So really appreciate your time today. Thanks, Heidi.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's been a pleasure. And I welcome the questions. So that's what I love to do, to help people out. So thank you for having me. I really liked it.